think he's doing a very good job. He likes crime, I guess. Most of their mine droppers are gone. We have a lot of people, as you know, at 10 o'clock tomorrow, we have a blockade going into effect. That'll be 10 o'clock tomorrow. Other nations are working so that Iran will not be able to sell oil.
So tomorrow morning, when everybody wakes up, the Strait of Hormuz will be officially blocked by the United States Navy. And there's a chance that tonight, in the morning, throughout the week, there are an exchange of missiles and bombs between Iran, the United States, Israel, and the surrounding countries and proxies. This whole war, this whole situation just got cranked up, and I don't know if any of this is fixable. The United States and President Trump has displayed a tremendous amount of patience trying to negotiate with the terrorist regime, the IRGC, and inevitably the world doesn't negotiate, or at least the civilized world doesn't negotiate with terrorists for this exact reason, because you can't negotiate with terrorists. And so here we stay at an impasse. The whole world is at an impasse right now. The fight between good and evil. And we're going to find out very soon what that outcome is. But we do have some indicators as to what to expect this week, as President Trump has broken his silence since the collapse of basically the ceasefire, since the collapse of negotiations. It's going to be a pretty intense video, so I do hope you stick around for the full thing to know the full context of what's going on. All I ask in return is for you guys to hit the like button and subscribe to the channel, and let's get right into it.
I would say it's holding well. Their military is destroyed. Their whole Navy is underwater. You know that. 158 ships are gone. Their Navy's gone. Most of their mine droppers are gone. We have a lot of people, as you know, at 10 o'clock tomorrow, we have a blockade going into effect. That'll be 10 o'clock tomorrow. Other nations are working so that Iran will not be able to sell oil. And that will be very effective. But what we want to do is we want to, and again, we don't need it. What we notice and what we see and what I think is maybe my idea, maybe not, I don't know. But there are many boats heading toward our country to fill up with oil and then go and take it. So they're not going to go through the Hormuz Strait. And ultimately that'll be corrected. But in the meantime, they're using us. We have more oil because of drill, baby, drill. We have more oil than Russia and Saudi Arabia put together. So if you look at Russia and Saudi Arabia, two big ones, we have much more oil than they have put together. And what's happening is boats are coming over here, filling up. We don't have to go through the Hormuz.
So depending on what side of the coin you land, personally, I think that everyone can come to the same conclusion. The best outcome is a world where the American empire stays afloat. Sure, there's a lot of people that don't like President Trump. There's a lot of people that are even anti-American, but a change in power for who is leading the world through the global police, such as like the fall of the Roman Empire. What follows the fall of the Roman Empire is total chaos. And in a world right now where countries are advancing their technological advancements, where countries like Pakistan have nuclear weapons, that's a scenario that I don't really want to find out what that looks like. And most people with common sense can come to that same conclusion. So what does this mean for the United States moving forward? Well, this means that the United States is going to be in a position of controlling the entire world's energy sector. And if you are pro-America or pro-Western dominance, then you're going to think that that's a phenomenal outlook.
I think Iran is in very bad shape. I think they're very desperate. We had a meeting that lasted 21 hours. We understand the situation better than anybody, and Iran's in very bad shape. And just so you understand, Iran will not have a nuclear weapon. Will not have. There is no way that they're going to get. They still want it, and they made that clear the other night. Iran will not have a nuclear weapon.
So even if you dislike President Trump, which it would mean that maybe you found yourself on the wrong side of the algorithm tonight or in the morning, whenever you're watching this, I think that the whole world can agree that Iran having a nuclear weapon is a really bad thing, in that President Trump has been consistent about several things his entire adult life, at least since he's been in the public eye. And Iran not having a nuclear weapon is one of those things that he's been consistent about way, way, way before he ever even considered running in politics.
Oh, I don't know. I don't care if they come back or not. If they don't come back, I'm fine. Their military is gone. Their missiles are largely depleted. The manufacturing capability for missiles and drones is largely defeated. We've been very nice. We haven't ripped down too many bridges. We did one only because they broke their word. They broke their promise. And remember, their promise was that they were going to open the Hormuz Strait. They didn't do it.
Not only did they not do it, but they kept all of the mines, apparently, that they had dropped in the Strait of Hormuz. And then when it came time to remove them, the regime said, oh, we don't know where they went. So that's not really showing a good sign of faith for negotiations for a country whose back is pinned up against the wall. Now, Russia has started to create already quite a bit of distance from Iran because Russia would like to make a deal with President Trump. North Korea is already starting to make a little bit of distance, from my understanding, from Iran because they would like to make a deal with President Trump. In China, well, they're the last really big country that is kind of funding everything that's going on with Iran, and they have every incentive to start to create some distance from Iran so they can make a deal with President Trump. And this is where we're heading, is potentially the total annihilation of not the Iranian people, but the Iranian regime and the terrorist suppliers. And all of those paths lead to making a deal with President Trump.
I don't think he's doing a very good job. He likes crime, I guess. He hit us. Think of it. He's worried about fear. What about the fear when the ministers and the priests and all of those great people that were arrested during COVID, and in many cases they're outside 10 feet apart and they were arrested. So we don't like it. We don't like a pope that's going to say that it's okay to have a nuclear weapon. We don't want a pope that says crime is okay in our cities. I don't like it. I'm not a big fan of Pope Leo. He's a very liberal person, and he's a man that doesn't believe in stopping crime. He's a man that doesn't think that we should be toying with a country that wants a nuclear weapon so they can blow up the world. So I'm not a fan of Pope Leo.
Those are some pretty intense words about Pope Leo, but it does get a little bit more complicated because it's not just the Pope that President Trump is criticizing in this press gaggle. It's also NATO. Here's what the president has to say about NATO.
Well, they're coming up. They're going to be coming up. But I'm very disappointed in NATO. They didn't do that. They weren't there for us. We pay trillions of dollars for NATO, and they weren't there for us. Remember what I said. NATO was not there. Now they want to come up, but there's no real threat anymore. But NATO was not there for us.
Are you going to punish the countries who didn't help?
We'll see what happens. But, we spend trillions of dollars on NATO to help them guard really against Russia. When you think of it, we're guarding against Russia. And I've long thought it was a little ridiculous, but we spend trillions of dollars doing it. And I think that's going to be under very serious examination.
If countries are not willing to work with President Trump and what is in the best interest of Americans and the American population, in this instance, it's controlling the Strait of Hormuz, getting rid of Iran's power play where they are charging $2 million in order to cross as a toll booth, and basically shifting the balance of the energy sector entirely into the United States' hands, then they're going to have some serious repercussions. And no one really knows what exactly that looks like, but it could be something as drastic as the United States literally pulling itself out of NATO. And if that does happen, that means that a lot of the smaller countries, well, they're not going to want to be a part of NATO if America, the world's police, the world's biggest superpower is not a part of it. So America could be in a position to basically reconstruct something that's entirely different of NATO, but completely controlled and governed by any sitting president. And that is, I mean, one hell of a move.
You said the other day that any country that supports Iran and sends military equipment to Iran will face a 50% tariff if they try to bring products. Did you refer to China? Did you mean China?
Yes, and other people, but yes, China too.
Okay.
If we find that China, because I hear news reports, so a news report doesn't mean much to me because they're so fake, but I hear news reports about China giving the shoulder missiles, what's called a shoulder missile, anti-aircraft missile. I doubt they would do that because I have a relationship and I think they wouldn't do that, but maybe they did a little bit at the beginning, but I don't think they would anymore. No. But if we catch them doing that, they get a 50% tariff, which is that's a staggering amount.
And all of this is something to be very heavily considered by opposing nations to the United States, because sure, maybe China is getting some form of a deal from supplying Iran with anti-aircraft missiles. However, that deal is very much outweighed by 50% tariffs that the United States could impose. And this is why the United States is remaining in power, is leveraged. Some people like it, some people criticize it, but at the end of the day, I don't particularly think we're living in a safe world if the balance of power shifts from the United States to something like China or North Korea or Russia. At least that's not something that I'm personally interested in finding out. So I would like the world police to be the good old USA.
For years, I've had to listen to them say, death to America, right? They say, death to America, death to Israel, America, the Satan, we will destroy America, death to America. Now, does anybody ever complain to you when they say that? I think that's a big step worse. Death to America. So they're allowed to say death to America. And what I'm referring to is, when I talk about civilization, it'll be much different because their military will be totally gone. It's pretty much gone now. But their military, look at their leadership. We have had regime change because the people we dealt with yesterday were, frankly, very smart, very sharp, very good, very good. I think they were smarter than the people from before, Khomeini and that group. Because look what it got them. Look what all of their antics were spending they spent all their money on weapons. We've destroyed most of those weapons. Mm-hmm. But, you know, when I say about a civilization, it really has changed. It really has. But think of it. They're allowed to say death to America, death to this, death to... And I make one statement, they say, oh, such a big deal. Let me tell you, that statement got them to the bargaining table, and they haven't left. They haven't left the bargaining table. I predict they come back and they give us everything we want. And I told my people, I want everything. I don't want 90%. I don't want 95%. I told them, I want everything.
Well, and what they
have
want...
no cards, Maria.
Yep.
They have no cards. Their Navy is gone. Their Air Force is gone, totally gone. Mm-hmm. They have nothing. They have no ships. 158 ships are at the bottom of the sea. Good ones, new. The Soleimani, they had one called the Soleimani, was taken out by one of our Tiger Sharks, by one of our rapidly moving submarines. It's amazing. Our military is so good. Do you know our military is a 94% approval rating now? Mm.
Well,
Congress has a 14%. The media has a 12%. When I started, the media had a 92% approval rating. Now they're down to 14%.
Wow.
And I'm very proud of it because they're very...
Never bet against the United States. Never bet against the United States military. It doesn't matter if you're left-leaning, if you're right-leaning. At the end of the day, when there is a threat, because there always is threats in the world we live in, especially to the one on top, in this case, the United States, when there is a threat, Americans can come together. The entire West can come together, just like they did after 9/11, and go and get the bad guys. And it's kind of what we're seeing right now, especially with Iran not really negotiating in good faith and consistently still demanding, even though they don't have any leverage, to be able to have nuclear capabilities. And that is a big no-no, not just from President Trump, but from so many people that have been in positions of power. All of the world leaders agree that Iran should not have nuclear capabilities.
They fired at us one day at a certain asset that we have, namely the aircraft carrier Abraham Lincoln, one of the beauties of the world, one of the great beauties of the world. They fired 101 missiles out of 100. These things are going more than 2,000 miles an hour. And out of 101 missiles, 101 were shot down like nothing and are now at the bottom of the sea, the remnants of them. Think of it, 101 missiles shot. In a short period of time, all 101 were knocked out. So we have the greatest military equipment. We have the greatest people. We have the strongest military in the world by far, and everybody sees it, whether it's Venezuela or what we've done with Iran. And when I read, the fake news talking about how well Iran's doing, they're not doing well at all. They're getting killed. I could take out Iran in one day. I could take down in 1 hour. I could have their entire energy, everything, every one of their plants, their electric generating plants, which is a big deal. And I hate to do it because if I do it, it takes you 10 years to rebuild. They'll never be able to rebuild it. And the other thing you take out are the bridges. I took out one just to show them because they went public with a statement that wasn't true. They admitted it. I say, I'm going to take out a bridge. And I took out a bridge. And that was the end of that. Now they've been really behaving quite well. But in one half of a day, they wouldn't have one bridge standing. They wouldn't have one electric generating plant standing. And they're back in the Stone Ages. I'd rather not do that. But I do believe they're going to come to the table on this because nobody can be so stupid as to say that we want to have nuclear weapons and they have no cards. They have no cards whatsoever.
They have absolutely no leverage, and we're going to find out in the next 12, 13, 14, 15 hours what their fate looks like. And I'm going to pass the question off to you. What do you think in 12 hours from now is going to be the state in Iran? Do you think that the United States is going to successfully be able to create a blockade at the Strait of Hormuz? Do you think that the United States is going to start bombing Iran, or that Iran is going to start bombing the United States again? Let me know what your guys' predictions are, because time is ticking and it's not looking good for Iran.